Good morning and welcome to the webinar, Future-Proof Supply Chains with Analytics-Driven Risk Planning. I'm Robert Zwirling. So here's something to start the morning. Will you survive? Our friend, the Grim Reaper, or he's not my friend anyway, but it's something to put into perspective that 38% of supply chain executives are placed on average 18 months. And 58% will be replaced in 42. 80% are gone in 6 years. So the question we have to ask is, what will be our tenure? And it's something very pertinent as we're approaching a recession. Now, this isn't a webinar about things that tend to be grim. We want them to be cheery and certainly provide a solution to avoid the Grim Reaper. And so what we're going to be discussing today are value creations that we can do with analytics that will take us from being dispensable to indispensable. And I'm just going to give you a preview of what can be accomplished. We can reduce our inventory on hand with AI forecasting. We're going to see an example of this. And we can reduce inventory on hand 20 to 50%. We can meet trade terms by reducing chargebacks with again, predictive analytics and Monte Carlo simulations, which we will talk about, and reduce those by 50%. We can avoid stockouts, not just for ourselves, but for our customers. And we have a variety of analytics that will help us do that and will increase our revenue by 2 to 5%. And finally, we'll talk about informed customer and supplier negotiations. We can reduce our cost of goods using analytics. We can reduce our cost of logistics by another 3 to 5%. So these are the things that we can employ in analytics fairly quickly, at fairly low cost, and avoid the Grim Reaper. So our agenda today will be why supply chains are uncertain and under stress, a use case of implied intelligence, and that will be with a $750 million CPG manufacturer that used AI demand forecasting to reduce inventory on hand by over 40%. We'll also talk about how to align actual performance with plan and how to future-proof supply chains at scale. And finally, we'll tie it all together with the benefits to future-proofing with a dollars and cents example. So first, our introductions. I'm Robert Zwirling. I have 25 years founding and growing software companies across manufacturing and distribution, telecommunications, high data availability, analytics, and AI. I've done 1,000+ analytics projects. I've written numerous papers and articles on analytics. I've been a keynote speaker and lecturer. I've written the books on analytics, these two here, Implementing an Analytics Culture for Data-Driven Decisions, and AI-enabled analytics for business, published by Wiley. I'm a founder and managing director of Aurora Predictions with our LightZ intelligent analytics forecasting and planning platform that enables unbiased decision-making across sales, finance, supply chain, and operations. The intuitive no-code interface means no need for data science or programming skills. I'm also co-managing director of the Finance Analytics Institute, which teaches how to implement analytics through articles, research papers, the Benchmark Analytics Survey, and the highly rated Finance Analytics Academy. I have a Bachelor of Engineering, magna cum laude, in mechanical engineering. I have a Master's of Science in Mechanical Engineering and Thermodynamics and Fluid Mechanics, and I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of California. Joining me today is the talented Wayne Petrovsky. Wayne is with Supply Chain Advisors, LLC, and he's an accomplished supply chain consultant experienced in supply chain management, operations, and strategic planning. He has a demonstrated record in service improvement, profit improvement, and implementation of strategies that result in sustained competitive advantage. For large and small companies, he has played a leading role driving benchmark levels of operational performance. Wayne founded Supply Chain Advisors in 2013, where he assists clients in meeting their critical supply chains needs. And he's established a reputation for leadership, best practices, change management, and process improvement. Prior, Wayne had leadership positions as director and senior director of supply chain for Merck, Amylin Pharmaceuticals, Life Technologies, Becton Dickinson, and Motorola. Wayne received an MBA in operations management from Loyola University. He has a BS in psychology and business and biology from DePaul. He's a certified CPIM, and he has published a manuscript entitled Total Cycle Time, Road to Productivity Improvement. And with that, let's begin our webinar. And Wayne, take it from here.
Okay, thank you, Robert, and I welcome our guests. Our session today is timely as we continue to navigate the extreme levels of disruption and uncertainty within the global supply chain over the past 3 years, and start out on the 4th year in a row. Many companies have made progress in mitigation through upgrades in systems, process, inventory, and sourcing. All of us have come to realize that we are in the midst of a long-term transformation, and it goes across the supply chain. And unfortunately, there is no endpoint in sight at this point in time. Of all the literature that I reviewed in preparation for this webinar, I found a telling assessment of the current state of supply planning solutions published by CGT and Oracle. And I want to share some of that with you right now. The assessment was shocking, but not surprising. And the headline is right up there on the screen. When asked to rank their organization's planning capability, only 10% of the respondents rated their organization's planning solutions as agile and accurate. The rest was not satisfactory or fairly good. Again, shocking, not surprising. In the same survey, all the respondents were asked to identify top 10 barriers to planning effectiveness. And you see it up on the screen right there. I think personally that this is a great list, and I think it highlights a lot of vital priorities for us all. The key finding is that 3 of the top 5 barriers to effectiveness in planning are related to the inability to predict demand. And there you have it circled there, 89% inability to adjust to demand fluctuations, 83% inability to make rapid adjustments with business partners, very critical. The third, inability to run detailed scenarios, 69%. Stunning, not surprising in today's environment. The barriers listed in the top 10 also include other items: inventory visibility, supplier data, digital systems, sourcing locations. And those are all important and had a lot of consensus, as you can see by the numbers there. All of the top barriers cited are challenging and quite daunting for some companies. On the positive side, these top 10 barriers can be easy to manage, or easier to manage, not harder. And the difference is, I think most of us have found, is that the difference between struggling with complex supply chains or reacting to uncertainty in a more controlled fashion is a matter of having the appropriate tools, the appropriate information. That translates to is basically adaptive supply chain software. Robert, back to you.
Thank you, Wayne. So one quick question before we move on. These issues kind of have been with us for a long time. And so what makes these more important now? Are we kind of in a new norm?
I think it is new. Supply chain, in terms of volatility, in terms of how impactful changes and disruptions are, the difficulty in in predicting change and what it might do is enormously challenging. So yes, the world has changed, and this is the normal today. A year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, longer, who knows? But it's going to be with us for a while. So yes, it is the new normal.
Okay, thank you. So let's talk about why we are where we are. What's the problem? Well, the problem is that the average forecast, demand forecast error is 35%. Now, this is not for any lack of effort, because there's $500 billion spent annually on state-of-the-art systems, demand planning systems, ERP systems, supply chain management systems. So we're not being trite about the problem. We're trying to attack the problem. But the basic underlying issue is transactional systems, which we've spent hundreds of billions of dollars on, are built for financial efficiency and not analytics. They also are built with an assumption that we have stable supply chains, and we don't. So as Wayne alluded to, the solution today is there is good news. There are modern analytic tools that are relatively easy to implement and relatively fast to implement, relatively low cost, that can supplement, not replace, but actually supplement and surround the transactional systems to reduce forecast error and do simulations for better planning. And let me give you an example of one such occurrence. So a $750 million CPG manufacturer did a forecast across its tier one customers, and it was using the LightZ, Aurora LightZ AI tool. And the maroon bars that you're seeing are the forecast accuracy of the forecast made 1 year in advance. So a forecast made in December of the prior year to through January and December of the upcoming year. And we can see that forecast accuracy is running about 90 to 99%. On average, it was about 95%. Now, this compared very well to the company's demand planning software. Again, no shortage of software. They had their, a state-of-the-art system, demand planning software, but they didn't have any AI. And we can see by the blue bars that the forecast accuracy ranged from a low of about 49% to a high of 78%. And the average accuracy was 65% or 35% error. And by the way, the blue horizontal bar up here, this blue horizontal bar is what the customer wanted the target forecast accuracy to be. So it was trying to achieve an 80% forecast accuracy. Demand planning was giving 65% accuracy on average, and AI forecasting was given about 90% forecast accuracy on average. And this better accuracy led to much higher levels of responsiveness and much lower inventory on hand. So let's talk about now forecasting, rather than what's known as deterministic forecasting, which is a single point. I have a number. We're going to talk about probabilistic forecasting and scenario planning. And the first step is the AI forecast. And we just saw an example of that, and we saw it could be quite good. But probabilistic forecasting doesn't stop there. The next step is what we call triangulation. We have 3 points that we triangulate on. The first is using AI demand signal. Now, the AI demand signal and the forecast will often agree in the direction. The AI demand signal is a signal of the future direction of the trend. And so the AI forecast and demand signal usually align. But sometimes they don't, because the AI forecast can use years of data to make its forecast, and therefore it might miss a current demand signal that the AI demand signal can find. And where the two are different, we set it aside and we investigate. The second part of triangulation is using an AI correlative lead indicators. Now, these use internal and external data to find out which lead and drive demand. And external data can be things like inflation, unemployment, and the like. The AI lead indicator has two benefits. One, it informs us to the driver of demand. Two, it calculates a demand forecast based on the lead indicator that's then compared to the AI forecast. The two usually align within a level of tolerance, and when they don't, once again, we set it aside. The third area of triangulation is collaboration. Now we humans come in and we change the forecast based upon our knowledge of the future. For example, we may know that a particular store is going to close. So now, while triangulation may seem like a lot of work, and you may think you need a data scientist. In LightZ, all of this is built in and automated so it flows very smoothly. Now, at the completion of triangulation, we have the best deterministic forecast, but it's still a point value. We're going to do 100 units next quarter. As such, we need to turn this forecast into a probabilistic forecast. We do that with the Monte Carlo simulation here in Forecast Simulate. Now, again, Monte Carlo is built into LightZ, so you don't need a data scientist. And let me show you an example of Monte Carlo. This is for a particular SKU. And here we turn the deterministic forecast, which is the central, I'll call it purple line, into bands of probable outcome. And the yellow band, we call the planning band, or the first confidence interval, and that gives us a 68% probability that the future will fall within this band. And it also gives us an 84% probability that the actual future demand will not exceed the top of the yellow band. So the bands enable optimization of sourcing and capacity planning and logistics. For example, say we have a 95% commitment in an SLA for a particular customer. In such a case, we would use the top of the orange band, because the top of the orange band gives us a 95% probability we have sufficient inventory to meet future demand. So probabilistic forecast tells us the unbiased risk in the forecast, and it transforms planning from a point value, a deterministic forecast, and then we guess a buffer, to an unbiased band of probability. Next, we go into scenario planning. Now, from our AI correlative lead indicators, we can take that information, and now we can run forecast simulations and do what-if scenarios. And then finally, we monitor. As time goes on, we monitor our forecast, our probabilistic forecast. And when we see there's starting to be a gap, a difference where we're skewing out of a band, we can go back to one of our scenarios and we can pick a scenario that better meets the actual outcomes. So then, rather than react to the future when it arrives, we anticipate and plan for the future. Again, all of this is automated in LightZ. And with that, now let's put this all together for a solution, and I'll turn that over to Wayne.
Okay, well, thank you for the overview of forecasting within LightZ. I think you kind of stole a little bit of my thunder. But at any rate, as a practitioner, and I was a practitioner for more than 25 years, there's some hot buttons that I want to share with you. These are areas of high value within planning, and Robert mentioned a few, but I'm going to go over them very quickly. One thing we must do is is really address demand forecast error. It's not uncommon, and I in the past have used 20, 40 models to basically shake that data down, searching for insights. So one model is probably not going to make it in some environments. The other thing that's extremely important is using a system of forecasting that learns. And we talked about Monte Carlo. I think that's a necessity. We need to be able to sense, we need to think in terms of degrees of probability for planning. Number two, improve demand and supply planning. To me, the major takeaways here, and again, speaking as a practitioner, use planning exceptions in real time. Remember that we have, you suffer with it every day. You have disruptions that happen. The assumptions you had yesterday were not the ones you have to use today. So we need to deal in real time, and the planning group needs to be focused on what types of events happen today and what changes happen today. The system itself, the other takeaway is automate that scenario generation process. I think it's absolutely crucial. All of us know that planners spend an inordinate amount of time trying to get information together from 2 weeks. So you get a scenario that has data from 2 weeks. Today, this is a different day. So we've got to be fast. One fast little quip, there's the quick and the dead. So we'd rather be in the prior than the latter. Number three, align actual forecasts using analytics to plan and achieve your results. The benefits, I think, are overwhelming if we adapt it and do it right. We're talking about a forecasting system that really drives planning and execution with high impact to the key statistics and measures that we have. And I'm talking profitability, service levels, lead times, the ability for the factory to have a stable forecast, administrative costs, placement of inventory. All those are absolutely key. So I'll turn it over to Robert to talk about use cases, unless you have a question.
Thank you, Wayne. Let me ask you a question. When we're doing forecasting, most companies kind of do it at a very high level, and then they do some form of allocation before it gets to the demand planners. Is there anything best practice that you have at what level these kind of probabilistic and scenario planning should be done at?
I think you have to understand your business and what the needs are. Some environments in terms of business are very simple. There's not too many SKUs. You might be fortunate enough to find a good forecast model or two models, so on and so forth. But I think that you have to understand whether or not you could do it by SKU, do it by family, because sometimes that's very reliable. It's more accurate to do it by family overall than it is for an individual SKU. But I think to take a deeper dive, if your business really requires it, go to the module level, go to the raw material level, because that's the building blocks. Fast example, I was in a device where we had thousands and thousands of permutations that were made out of maybe 500 or 600 ingredients, and a customer wanted finished product within a day. And some of the permutations would never happen, but it was forecasting salmonella outbreaks in Carmel, California, the week of the 3rd, 2020. You just can't do it. But I don't care, because I've got the material. I've planned, and I know that there's certain amounts of material that I need. I forecast those as opposed to the SKU, and building a fast reactive factory. I don't need a forecast, because if I could make something in a day and I have the material, who has to forecast?
Thanks, Wayne. Appreciate that. So essentially, forecasting is all the time is a necessity, but sometimes isn't required when you have the example that like you just shared. So let's share an example. This is of a $460 million CPG manufacturer who actually applied the things that we're talking about, and we'll see the dollars and cents results. So obviously the first and best application of AI is in the demand forecast area and to reduce demand forecast error. And here, for every 1% decrease in demand forecast error yielded a 1.5% reduction in inventory on hand. And an average 34% error reduction was achieved that contributed to taking $88.7 million out of inventory. Now, we talked about Monte Carlo. Now, Monte Carlo we can use to set min-max levels. Those peaks and valleys we saw in the Monte Carlo graph can be used to set the peaks and valleys for our min-max. And that, too, can be very effective in reducing inventory on hand. Here, another 2.2%. for a $2.6 million reduction. So just using the AI forecasting, the probabilistic forecasting with Monte Carlo simulation is a $90 million plus reduction to inventory on hand. Now, again, using these same two capabilities plus the AI predictive trend indicator, the chargebacks, which were up to $14.5 million, were reduced by cut in half to $7.2 million. And finally, using a couple of other things, analytics for sales portfolio analysis, and using the AI lead indicators, and something that we didn't talk about, but using correlations to find supply chain disconnects between the manufacturer and his customer, the retailer, and the retailer and his customer, the consumer. By looking at those correlations, you can find where supply chains are out of sync, and all of that would help alleviate a lot of the stockouts and lift sales by 5% or 23 million. So in total, there's over $120 million of benefits, or 26% on $460 million in revenue. So these analytics can breed better predictions, better decisions, better planning, better performance. And that all happens without a lot of cost and without a lot of time and without the need for data scientists and statistical knowledge. And these are the new generation of tools that are out there today, like Aurora Lights, that can be applied to surround our transactional systems and improve our planning. So Wayne, over to you.
Okay. Well, in closing, to foolproof our supply chains, the need for speed and accuracy in planning has never been greater. Legacy tools, spreadsheet planning, guessing are just not doing the job. We must deal in degrees of probability and then be able to respond appropriately. Analytics tools such as LightZ, brought about tremendous benefits in terms of forecast error, 4x improvement, 8x. From a planning perspective, I'll throw in that this can supplement development of needed scenarios, so we can walk away and say, at this minute in time, we've rapidly generated with a certain understood level of confidence where we're going. Tomorrow might be different, but that's okay because we have the tools. If you and Robert feel that we can assist you or your company with analytics-based planning and risk mitigation, we do have 2 spots open to do a free POC, which is proof of concept. It's It's essentially a project using your data to demonstrate some capability of these systems. Our contact information, if you could please bring that up, is up there on the screen. Please forward your questions and comments to either of us. We could be reached at almost any time. And I want to thank you for attending. Also, we have developed a white paper. It's on your left over there. You could contact us on the emails, and we will send you a copy of that white paper. And it has a lot of detail. It fills in some of the blanks that perhaps this webinar has created, but it'll talk about models and implementation and things like that, which hopefully will answer a lot of your questions. But we'd love to share that with you. And again, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you all. Cheers. Have a great day.